Hey everyone, you are listening to No Further Investigation, your brand new F1 podcast, which I'm sure is going to be your favourite. I'm Zarah Connolly, and with my teammate Will Dixon, we basically chat all things F1 as if we were in the pub, just recapping on these races. And I hope you're getting the vibe that basically you're with us. You're with us there, sharing some pork scratchings, you're having a cheeky pint, we're having a little debrief about the race. So, on this episode, we're going to be talking all things the 2026 Chinese Grand Prix. Because let's kick things off, Will. He is him, Kimi Antonelli, his first F1 win, and he did it in style.
He did. What a weekend. What a weekend for Kimi. I mean, he broke records on Saturday, he became F1's youngest ever pole sitter. And it was that big question, wasn't it? Once it became apparent that Mercedes had the fastest car and George had that great start to the season, would Kimi be able to challenge him? And by race two, to already have that win, I think is a massive thing for him. Just as a big confidence booster, that's so good to see. He can, and it wasn't like, he lucked into the win at all, was it? He started from pole, got away, and he pretty much controlled the race from there on in. It was such a great performance. And yeah, he's the second youngest F1 winner. And yeah, go on, Kimi. I think it was one of those moments, wasn't it? Where it was like everyone loved that.
Everyone did.
Everyone loved it. It
Every
was just
Formula One fan, doesn't matter who you support, doesn't matter who your favourite driver is, you adore that. Because I tell you what, I don't know about you, Will, but I wasn't doing things like that at 19. I was a nightmare at 19. I think I was. I say that. I was at Salford Uni. Big up Salford Uni. But maybe I'm still I was workaholic. I'm still a workaholic now, but I definitely wasn't achieving things like that at 19.
well, Zara, I mean, I don't know what I was like at 19, but you kind of employed me when I was 19. So I think that has to be like, I don't know if that's a good sign or not.
Yeah, that's true. So for anyone listening, yeah, so this is actually so funny. Yeah, we did. So you were 19 when I hired you. So
I
this is
think so,
how
yeah.
this is how we sparked this friendship. Because I look after Salford City Lionesses and a women's team, which is the women's team of Salford City FC. And we always look for interns. We always try and get some really creative talents in. And Will was one of the applicants. And Will just shone alongside his friend Lars. And you two were just so wholesome and you were just perfect to bring into the team. And then we quickly realised that we adored F1. So it was a nice, say if results weren't going so well on the pitch, it was a nice little thing for me to just go over to Will and be like, can we just chat things McLaren today?
Yeah.
But I hired you at 19. Oh my God.
I know. I'm 26 now.
I love you very
Unbelievable.
dearly, but that's not beating Kimi Antonelli at 19 winning the race, is it?
It's not, no. I mean, yeah, in perspective, yeah, that's probably a guy who hadn't got a driving license last year and didn't even pass the school exams last year is now an F1 race winner.
Literally.
Um, Go on, Kimmy. Love to see it.
I know, and he had me stressed, by the way, because he nearly bottled it at the end with that late lockup, and he somehow held on. And I thought, wow, this is showing the skill that he has at 19. This is Star is Born energy. Like the fact that he can like have that mentality at such a young age and to deal with that late lockup as well. It's
Mm.
it's credit to him because you've seen it before with some of the rookie drivers where a late lockup like that can just mentally screw them over. And all of a sudden, your car's in the gravel, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it sort of shows kind of this new generation of F1 just how good these guys are. Like they are basically ready to win immediately out of the box. And, last year, considering it was his rookie year, Kimi did really well. And we saw a lot of promise, although we knew that it was going to take a little bit more time. But for him to start this season, I think in the same way that maybe we saw with Oscar last year, where Lando came in as the heavy favourite, McLaren had the quickest car, and obviously Lando won the first race last year by race two, also in China. To be like, can you challenge your more experienced teammate, the one who's favourite for the championship, and at least on a one weekend basis, he showed that he can. I think the real question is, though, Zara, do you think he can do this throughout the season and make it and put a challenge together for George? Because it does look like it is going to be one of those two.
It does, and I think it goes in Kimi's favour that this is going to sound terrible, but in reality, last season, when people were discovering that Antonelli was going to obviously get the promotion and everything like that, and they're thinking, oh, at least, he's learning his craft. But now he's starting to look like a real contender because we've seen it before where drivers can win that first race in Australia. But the fact that he was competing at such a high level, it wasn't a fluke in Australia. And now, obviously, for this to win and also qualifying, obviously, to be pole, they're all added ingredients to show that he can be the best. We've seen it before. I mean, an example that I'd give is, for instance, when you have Max Verstappen and then you have Isaac. I mean, this is obviously this car's got lots of troubles. However, you want them to be, if they've got the same mindset as each other, they'd be similar, if not the same. A bit like the Ferrari issue now, where you've got drivers that are still basically switching all the time between positions. I think Kimi's more than capable of it. And it might sound a little bit keen, but I've got faith in him. I just think as well is that there's always been talks about how George Russell deals with pressure. And I don't think anyone's discussing that at the moment because everyone's just looking at the cars. But I think George could potentially struggle if Kimi is fighting the way that he is, because I don't know how George will deal with it. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because I think if you were George Russell going into this season, you were probably thinking, as long as Mercedes deliver the car everyone expects them to and delivers the power unit we expect them to, that's going to be at the front, I might have a pretty easy ride. Because he had the beating of Kimi last year. It's Kimi's rookie year, but George kind of asserted himself as one of the best drivers in F1, being the only other guy apart from the top three to win a race. But for Kimi to come in and be pretty close to him, he was pretty close to him in Australia as well, despite the problems he had on that Saturday where he had the accident. There's that great video, I think we spoke about it last time, of Toto and Kimi. And then to come into China, again, didn't get off the line well in the sprint, fell down, lost quite a few points through that, had that collision with Isaac, didn't he? But he put together the qualifying, and it's probably important to say that George did have that issue in Q3. We saw him stop. And we don't know if George had a smooth session, if he would have been a bit closer. But controlled the race from the front, Kimi, and he showed all the maturity that we expect someone way beyond his years. And I think importantly to have this performance from Kimi now, as opposed to halfway through the season, which I think a lot of people could have forgiven him for if he maybe took half a year to really get up to speed and be up to pace with George. But by then it's probably too late and George is already a heavy favourite. To have this really quickly out of the box so early in the season, I think it'll do wonders for his confidence. And I'm not sure if second year Kimi is going to be the one that delivers the world championship. But who knows? Who knows? If he's putting us in this performance now and we've got this little bit of a broken up season as well after Japan, maybe we could see him put it together a bit more consistently. And I'd really like him to. I would, because I really like Kimi. I think he's such a nice guy. And it's just seeing him and like the emotions coming out after the race and just how he was crying on his interview. Sorry, I think this whole time I've kept saying Kimi Antonelli. I think I mean Kimi Räikkönen as the 50 announcer, which I have no idea how that happened.
There's no idea. I mean, that's honestly, when that happened, I was like, did he just say Kimi Räikkönen? Because I mean, listen, Kimi Räikkönen's an F1 legend. If you're a fairly new F1 fan, look him up, please, because he is a legend of the game. But listen, there's a new Kimi in town. He's making his way. And I just think that Surely in that position, you've got one job to get that name right. I'm saying this as someone who, listen, it's your biggest fear as a presenter that at some point you're a little bit tired and just something rolls off the tongue. How on earth can you have that name roll off the tongue? Apart from Kimi, there's no other relation really. One's a veteran of F1, the other one is a new youngster. It's your biggest fear. I also felt like when it got said, I thought, oh my goodness me, they're just not going to forgive themselves. I don't know how they're going to deal with it.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, I don't want to dig out the announcer. I don't know who it is. I don't want to dig out the announcer too much because mistakes happen, and
It's your
I'm
biggest fear.
sure at that point he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. But just a moment, just thinking, you've just won your first F1 race. You've achieved a lifelong dream. I mean, lifelong. He's only 19. You know,
Just a reminder, he's 19.
yeah, just it could have been longer. And you've put together this amazing weekend. You've won the race. You're crying in front of everybody. It's a really emotional moment, and then you get up on the podium. It's your big moment, and they say the wrong name. Oh, poor Kimi.
I mean, it's the only way I can describe it is it's like, this is going to be a very, very Zarah analogy here, so apologies for what's going to come out of my mouth. But it's the equivalent of, say, like you're currently just on a couple dates, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is a great time as if we're really getting on, and then they call you by your ex's by their ex's name. It is, isn't it? It is, and you know I'm right. You know I'm right. It's as if they've just messed up your name and said their ex's name. You know I'm right. It's like
Oh, I can't. Oof. I think you are right.
I am right. It's like
You are right.
you're expecting them to be like, oh, Kimi Antonelli, we had such a good time. And then they're like, oh, Kimi Raikkonen, we had such a good time. Sorry. It is. It's like the ex's name just spills out.
Has this happened, Zara, to you?
It's
Is
like
this where?
PTSD. I'm sorry, Will. I brought my trauma to work today.
Should we talk about Ferrari?
Let's talk about Ferrari, because I don't know about you, but we're talking about Kimi Raikkonen and Kimi Antonelli, but I didn't realise that Toto Wolff had 3 drivers getting a podium, because that's the talk this weekend, because obviously Kimi Antonelli, George Russell, and Lewis Hamilton gets a podium, his first podium for Ferrari. And
So I was still thinking about his exes.
he's still thinking about his exes too, because I tell you what, there is a glorious clip that we're going to have to put into this now.
What's the top 3? Is that...
Like, I just thought for a moment that we have 3 cars. First, second, and third. Never get used to this.
One is in red. One is in red by now. I don't know if you're the driver.
But Toto Wolff is just staring at the telly, looking at that podium, and he said, like, look at me, I've got 1, 2, 3. He's looking at those positions thinking that they're his drivers. And he's just, you know what's really interesting is that there's clips from Drive to Survive that are going out they're circulating quite a bit. I'm sure you would have seen them. And it's the bit where Toto is trying to explain to Lewis that we need you here for 2026 because of the regulations. We need you here for it. We're making lots of progress. Which also highlights the amount of work that Toto has been doing behind the scenes to work on this car. No wonder it's one of the best cars on the grid. But you look at this, and Lewis kept saying to him, I don't want to wait till 26. And I understand it. I understand Lewis's perspective completely, and the trust that he's going to have. But you look at that and you're thinking, oh my goodness, like, obviously Lewis, naturally, was going to be Toto's first choice. So he's staring at the car, looking at the podium. And Toto's probably thinking, if Lewis is doing that in the Ferrari, which the Ferrari is slightly less than obviously the Mercedes than what we've seen it produce, imagine if, like, even with the regulations, how far ahead Lewis could have got in the Mercedes.
Yeah, I wonder if Lewis is thinking the same thing as well. I think probably at that point when he announced, I mean, I think we all remember where we were when it was announced that Lewis was going to Ferrari. And certainly at the time, by the end of 2024, that looked like such a good decision because Ferrari were in the hunt for the Constructors' Championship. They probably put together the best sort of end to 2024, and then 2025, the hype is off the charts with Lewis and Ferrari. In 2025, it was 2025, and really didn't work out. But you have this lottery of 2026. But even then, you would probably have backed Mercedes over Ferrari, and I think
You
Lewis knows that. But it's just that Ferrari aura. You can't turn it down, can you?
I mean, that
Like,
Ferrari aura's clearly got him Kim Kardashian with the news on the grid. So he's done some magic there.
So it's just a question of what you want in life: 8 world championships, or do you want Kim Kardashian?
I don't know about you, but if that rumour is true, and it looks like it, listen, XOXO F1 gossip girl here, but Lewis Hamilton did comment on Kim Kardashian's pictures this weekend too, which tells me that something's going on. And all I want in my life, Martin Brundle, you Formula One hero, you inspire me every day. Please, for the love of God, if Kim Kardashian is there for your interview frenzy, she best stop for you. She best do. Honestly. Because I want a Martin Brundle Kim Kardashian interview to happen.
If she's on the F1 grid and she doesn't stop for Martin, the fallout.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm gone. Vanish.
And we know how much Lewis respects Martin Brundle.
Exactly.
You know, when they were doing the F1 movie, they're like, you have to get Martin Brundle.
You've got
it's just part
one
of
job,
F1.
Lewis. One job.
It's
Get
part of
your girl.
F1 as wheels on the car. You need Martin Brundle.
You do.
So he would probably be, you know, if it's all true and, you know, Kim's turning up, he's probably going to have a conversation, be like, if Martin turns up, don't you dare walk away. You speak to that man,
If
he'll
you
speak
walk
to you.
away,
Who do you think's
I
gonna
walk
win?
away. That's basically the angle. Like, listen, Kimberly, it ain't for me if you ain't with Martin Brundle. That's what it needs to be. And I want that to happen because Martin Brundle's the GOAT. He is the king. The way he just chats to everyone, and I mean, even just the way that people react to him. I mean, Terry Crews worships the ground that Martin Brundle walks on. So yeah, this is an appreciation shout out to Martin Brundle because you give us life. You somehow will get all the info that we need, but you also need the respect you deserve from all these new celebs that are going to come to Formula One.
It's a sort of weird circle, isn't it? There's some weird Venn diagram of Martin Brundle and the people that he knows and like the people that like really worship him. You obviously have like all F1 fans, but this sort of exclusive group of celebrities who know who he is and go, we respect him. We respect the GOAT.
Yeah, because he knows. I mean, he's not there for show. He knows everything. He knows everything. He makes his way to know everyone as well. Because there are some celebs, let's be honest, there are some celebs that are on that grid that will not know a thing about F1, and Martin will not know a thing about them, but he'll get that list and he'll research like crazy just to know everything. It takes an exceptional talent to do that. Any other presenter out there, we know how hard it is when all of a sudden you get told someone's going to arrive at a game or a race or whatever, and you've got to somehow magically know everything about them to get that interview. Martin does. So yeah, shout out to him, because if Kim K comes supporting that Lewis Hamilton Ferrari aura, you gotta speak to Martin Brundle. Otherwise, you are not welcome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? That celebrities turning up who maybe don't know about F1, and you have Martin Brundle interviewing them who doesn't know anything about those celebrities. It's a brilliant combination. I'm sure we could spend a lot of time talking about Martin Brundle's grid walks, but back to Ferrari. Because that battle between Charles and Lewis, oh my God, that was so fun to watch.
I feel like, though, it's really fun to watch, but do you think it's going to cause issues this season?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
The question is, when we talk about the issues, we're going to have to throw it back to a rivalry like no other. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg brought out the best and worst in them both. And all I'm thinking is, I think Lewis, we know how competitive he is. We've heard how competitive he is. I don't really think we've scratched the surface of Charles Leclerc yet in a moment like this, where he's got a driver that's pretty much his equal. You can't really shake the two at the moment because you've got Lewis has obviously achieved so much, whereas Charles Leclerc is a phenomenal driver. But obviously, you don't know what's going to happen in a season, and Ferrari are going to have to pick one of them at some point to be that first choice. And letting them race is risky. The light contact between them, the fact that they've allowed that so early on in the season, and not really. Listen, they're going to have a slight complaint, but they've not really batted an eyelid in comparison to what other teams would do in that scenario, have they?
They haven't, but do they need to pick a number one? That's the thing, is that I feel the number one thing, it only really should apply when it comes to like championships at stake. And as good as Ferrari are, and they are by far Mercedes' closest competitor, and who knows, these points that these two are training at the start, it may very well prove to be something later in the year, but we don't know. And it's only going to be a thing if Ferrari are able to overcome Mercedes. But I don't see them picking a number one between them. I don't think you can. How do you pick a number one between those two? I think the best thing you can do is just let them race, and then if there's a natural order of things by some point, and say, there's all this talk about, maybe there's going to be some changes to the engine and how the engines are tested, and maybe that'll hurt Mercedes and help Ferrari. If you're in that position and then Ferrari suddenly have the fastest car and only one of them can challenge, or maybe one of them's ahead, say Lewis is ahead of Charles at that point, then maybe you back Lewis or vice versa. But I think up until now, I don't really think there's much to be gained from picking between one or the other.
I'd counter argue, and listen, this is always a debate. We have no. In the title, we have no further evidence. There's no further investigation happening here. But I do think when Lewis Hamilton took the plunge to go to Ferrari, surely with the credentials that he has, do you not think, and are you curious about what's in his contract in regards to, could he at some point be the first choice? Or they're going to have to choose him at some point because of a contractual agreement? Because I've thought about this.
I don't think either of them have that.
But I do think that Lewis would be smart enough to do it. And I think genuinely, because the Ferrari wasn't competing last season, we wouldn't have even seen it. There was no point even activating that clause in the contract. Are you telling me throughout this season, if Mercedes start having a couple of issues all of a sudden, that Lewis isn't going to trigger that part of the contract if it's there? I think he'll have to. Like, he's a smart guy. He's super intelligent. He knows what he's doing. But I think Charles Leclerc won't expect it. He won't anticipate it. Because I think for Ferrari, with the heritage that they have, and Lewis Hamilton's heritage, surely with how F1's going, with the brand deals at stake, as much as we know that Charles Leclerc is loved and adored, I think they'd lean towards Lewis. Which pains me because I adore Charles Leclerc. I obviously picked him to win the other week.
I just can't. I can't see. I mean, first, there's two parts to that, isn't it? If there is something in that contract, would Lewis be able to enact some kind of number one status? I just can't see that there is. I don't think the situation that led Lewis to going to Ferrari means that he has the kind of authority in order to enact something like that. If this was peak Lewis, say in 2020, and he went to Ferrari in 2021, then maybe. But at this point, I just can't see it, especially like Charles' status in that team. Charles has a much longer contract. He is a much longer term plan for Ferrari than Lewis is. Lewis Hamilton in his 40s. This is very, very probably I'd be shocked if there was any other teams after this. This has to kind of be it, really. And it's almost a bit of a, to me, it almost feels a bit of a, hopefully he can win, but it's a check off the list. I drove for Ferrari, and it helps complete this amazing career that he's done. Charles, I'm sure Charles' contract is still for a few more years. He's the sweet prince. He's the golden child. He is the one that's won at Monza twice, and he is the favourite amongst the Tifosi, and he is Ferrari. And if he is being put into second place by Lewis, by the team, he's immediately starting to look elsewhere. Because I'm sure we'll get onto Red Bull in a little bit, because I think that's going to be very interesting with Max and what happens there.
Exactly.
Charles very much is then starting to look elsewhere. I mean, there was already talk that if Ferrari weren't going to be competitive, that Charles immediately starting to look elsewhere and thinking, where can I go that's going to give me a championship winning car? Because he deserves one. He absolutely deserves one.
And I agree. I think the biggest thing with Charles Leclerc is that he's got such a talent there, and it's a huge shame if he doesn't win anything with Ferrari. But the reality sets in where we love these huge constructors that have paved the way in Formula One. We can't hide the fact that Ferrari have had their struggles with how they've managed that team over so many years. They're not the best constructor to manage people. That's just been some of their fault. Manage people in cars. And in a scenario where you've got two fantastic drivers, yes, Lewis is coming to the end of his career, but he's still outperforming many other drivers, which shows the talent that he has. I don't trust Ferrari to manage the Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton situation. It gives me the fear.
I see what you mean. I just don't see it coming to it being a problem championship wise, and as long as Ferrari aren't really competing for the championship, this isn't really going to be an issue in my eyes. But I think they're just going to let them race, and I think it's great. I think that's to the benefit of all of us, because it's great to watch. It's great to watch, and yeah, I'm very much a fan of. I'm sure we can look back on last year and kind of how the McLaren thing worked out, because I think maybe a lot of people's view on team orders and picking number one drivers is slightly skewed by what McLaren did last year. I think McLaren, not to completely revisit that at this point, McLaren did the right thing in terms of letting them try and settle it out on track. And yeah, there were some decisions that went for one, went against another, and the rub of the green, fell certainly in the way of Norris. But ultimately, their intention was the right thing, and Ferrari's intention here is the right thing, to let them race, sort it out, and then if it becomes apparent that Ferrari can win the championship and they need to back one of them, they're picking the one who's ahead and has made the best of this first part of the season, whether that's Lewis or Charles, but both of them have that same opportunity.
No, I agree. I want to see how it plays out. And you've mentioned McLaren there. Let's both drown our sorrows here, because it was a disaster class for McLaren. Myself and you are huge McLaren fans. We've supported them all our lives. To not even have a DNF, but a DNS is huge, and something that I definitely didn't anticipate that we'd have to talk about this season.
I mean, both of them as well. Both DNSs. It's good to see McLaren is still playing equal, and Papiro's still very much in full swing.
Is it going to hurt them now by playing equal?
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? I mean, before we came on here, I was seeing that, I was reading up a bit more about it, and they said there was the same issue happened on both cars. It's almost a complete anomaly. Can't speak. Anomaly?
Anomaly. I feel like Dory from Finding Nemo.
Anomaly. A complete anomaly. Nailed it. And it's unfortunate, yeah. And I feel so bad, especially for Oscar. He hasn't completed a Grand Prix lap yet. He hasn't started a Grand Prix yet this season. it's been a disaster start in terms of defending their championship. How much we thought that was really possible, I don't know, but it's not looking good so far. I mean, competitively, they don't look enormously far off it, I want to say. They're the third best team as it stands. It's a poor start, but yeah, I think it's as much as it's painful, I'm not really sort of mourning the loss of McLaren's title defense so far, really, because it never felt that likely. I don't know about you.
I agree. I think I always knew that this season wouldn't be McLaren's year. I already predicted that. My prediction before we even started testing was that it was going to be George Russell. And Kimi's like just surprised me a bit in that, which I enjoy. But I definitely feel like this is how McLaren need to get back to the drawing board this season. And I hope they recognise it. Because I think there's a couple of factors in it. One, where you've got a driver like Oscar Piastri. In the way that he kept Lando going to the final race, makes me wonder if those two could have had a season like Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton this season if they had the right car. It would have been nice to see how that plays out and to keep Lando on his toes. And I also think probably the biggest factor is, we've talked about Mercedes, how they adapted a few years ago and how they were waiting for these regulations to work on. If this is the case, that this is going to be McLaren's season, can McLaren just focus on, even if it's not next season, the season after, but focus on that car that's upcoming? Put all their energies into it, because we've seen it works. Just look at Mercedes now. It works completely if you spend your time doing that.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to base this season off the fact that McLaren are reigning champions, that they're reigning 2 times Constructors' Championship, reigning Drivers' Champion. And if they don't win, I'm sure there will be people who will mark the season down as a failure. However, realistically, with how we've seen these kind of regulation changes go before, it skews favourably into the teams that build their own power units. So it was always going to favour Mercedes. McLaren are still in a good place because they're the third fastest car and they have the best engine. So they've got a good platform to build off. They've openly admitted they've got struggles with the car, but I think we predicted, after seeing what happened with the last stretch of regulations, 22 to 25, that they could start off a bit off it, but then they have the team, they have the resources in order to build themselves up over the year. You know, I'm sure McLaren could be a lot closer to Mercedes by the end of the year, and maybe next year is a different story. It's a bit close between the two of them. But yeah, it's going to be a building year for them. I think that's pretty clear. And yeah, I think it's just more about getting more laps and getting more racing laps under their belts. And I'm sure after Japan, and then we'll have a break after Japan, we'll have a clearer picture of where they are in true pace to Mercedes and where they're going to have to look at improving to get a bit closer.
So that is it for No Further Investigation this week. We hope you have enjoyed our debrief of the 2026 Chinese Grand Prix. There's plenty more where that came from, because it has been busy in the F1 world. We're going to be talking cancelled races and plenty more on the Max Verstappen situation as we see how his season unfolds. So it's been Zarah and Will, and we'll be back very soon. Follow us all on socials and we'll catch you in a bit. Bye.
Bye.